Well, there's the announcement we were expecting, as we reported almost an hour ago. Budget Director Jack Lew replacing Bill Daley as the new chief of staff at the White House under the Obama administration. Charlie Gasparino has been reporting to all of you at home since September that Mr. Daley was unhappy. He joins me now here on set. So you were not surprised by this today at all, Charlie?
This was a long time coming. I mean, he was telling people that he was agitated at the job, that he felt cut out. He didn't have the presidency here. That Valerie Jarrett, the senior economics advisor for the president, was really kind of running the show. He put his name out there to be Treasury Secretary, possibly replacing Tim Geithner if there's a second Obama term. It looks like that is not going to happen, that he was told he wouldn't become Treasury Secretary. And I'll tell you, before we get into my next story, which I think is a pretty interesting tale about the CME and MF Global, this is one of the reasons why Wall Street is not supporting Obama. He is clearly pushing out people from the business community, from his inner circle. And, you know, when you lose guys like Larry Summers, which he did over the past year, you know, you lose Bill Daley, who's a moderate. You know, he's what you kind of want in that administration. Remember, he worked for the Clinton administration. This is not the Clinton administration. This is not politics, Cheryl. Bottom line is, this administration is going to ramp up the anti-business rhetoric. Bill Daley probably does not want to be around for that. And as the campaign, as 2012 approaches, the presidential election. And, you know, if you're wondering why businesses aren't hiring more, even though things are getting marginally better, it's because of stuff like this. They're worried about who's in the White House and who's calling the shots in terms of policy. They'd rather have Bill Daley than Valerie Jarrett any day of the weekend. Now they're not going to get Bill Daley.
Let's get to the CME. Great story.
Right. I mean, this is what we know from sources close to the regulators that are investigating the whole MF Global implosion. You know, MF Global was a commodities trading firm. It's being investigated right now by just about everybody in the world, including the CFTC. But you got the SEC involved. You got Justice Department. And one of the things that's on the table, and it's pretty interesting, if they could prove that the CME somehow, because remember, MF Global was a regulated entity by the CME. It was a futures trading firm. Did not properly regulate MF Global, and they're investigating the CME for that role. If they have some problems there, one of the issues that's on the table is a breakup of the CME. Now, what do I mean by breakup of the CME? It'll be something similar to what occurred in the NASDAQ stock market in the late 1990s, mid to late 1990s, when they found some sort of price fixing, and they basically found a lot of shady stuff involving NASDAQ trading. What they did was the SEC went in there, did an investigation, and forced the breakup of the market, which is now called the NASDAQ stock market, and its regulatory arm, which is now called the NASD. That is gone as well. As you know, there's just one regulatory arm right now. It's separate from the exchanges, but that's what they're thinking of doing here. Maybe break up the regulatory function of the CME from the markets, from the market unit, and that's a pretty interesting thing. That is on the table. I'm not saying it's going to happen tomorrow, but clearly that is on the table, and we'll know if they're going to do it based on just what they find in terms of the CME's conduct. As you know, we were first to report that John Corzine, when he took over at MF Global, really didn't have the compliance controls in place. Why didn't the CME pick that up? We should also point out that Barney Frank, this once head of the Senate House Finance Committee, is going to retire. He's now in the minority. Actually threw that out there about possibly breaking up. This is a quote he said at the MF Global hearings a couple of weeks ago. Spinning off the CME's regulatory functions into a separate entity would help restore investors' confidence. Pretty important voice. This thing is out there. Clearly, regulators are looking at whether we should break it up. The CME basically came out with a statement that defended their position as a regulator. The system did not fail, they said. The firm did by breaking the law. It's pretty interesting. Pretty harsh words. The firm did by breaking the law. I don't see any charges, and they're saying that MF Global broke the law. At least that's come from the CME.
The story continues, and you've been on it from the beginning. Charlie, thank you very much.
Okay.
Charlie Gasparino.